Captain Jake Murphy stared at the display screen in front of him. The three small ships of his fleet moved slowly through the dark space near the Kepler 442 system. His ship, the USS Denver, was the lead vessel. Behind him flew the USS Phoenix, with Captain Lisa Wong in command, and the USS Atlanta under Captain Ben Torres. They had been exploring this part of space for 2 months now, checking planets and taking notes about what they found. The mission was supposed to be simple and quiet. Earth wanted to know more about the worlds out here, so they sent 3 small exploration ships to look around. Murphy liked the peaceful work. After spending years in the military, he enjoyed the calm days of scanning planets and sending reports back home, but today was different. The communication officer, Lieutenant Sam Garcia, turned around with worry on his face. "Captain, we're getting distress signals from the Kepler 442 system. Multiple transmissions all saying the same thing." Murphy walked over to Garcia's station. "What are they saying?" "It's the Zilani colony on the 4th planet. They're asking for help. Something about a big alien fleet that just arrived." Garcia played the message through the speakers. A scared voice filled the bridge. The words were translated by their computer, but Murphy could hear the fear even through the electronic voice. "This is Elder Zeth of the Zilani colony. A massive war fleet has entered our system. They call themselves the Vorthan Empire. They demand we leave our world in 24 hours or they will destroy us. We have no weapons. We have no way to fight them. Please, if anyone can hear this, we need help." Murphy felt his stomach tighten. The Zilani were known throughout this part of space as peaceful farmers. They grew amazing crops and traded food with other worlds. They had never hurt anyone, and never wanted to fight with anybody. The idea of someone threatening them made Murphy angry. "How far away are we?" Murphy asked his navigation officer. 6 hours at full speed, sir," came the reply. Murphy thought for a moment. 3 small exploration ships against what sounded like a war fleet. It seemed impossible. But he could not just leave the Zilani to die. "Set course for Kepler 442. Maximum speed. Contact the Phoenix and Atlanta. Tell them we're going to help." As the 3 ships changed direction and sped up, Murphy called Earth Command. The message would take hours to reach home because of the distance, but he needed to tell them what was happening while he waited for an answer. He had his crew gather information about the Vorthan Empire. Dr. Alex Chen, the ship's expert on alien life, brought Murphy a report. The Vorthans are reptile-like creatures from the Vorthan system. They've been conquering smaller worlds for the past 50 years. They use fear and big ships to make others give up without fighting. Most species just surrender when they see the Vorthan fleet. "What kind of ships do they use?" Murphy asked. "Huge ones. Their smallest warships are 10 times bigger than our vessels. They build everything big and heavy. The aliens think bigger, mean stronger." Murphy nodded. It made sense from what he knew about alien psychology. Many species judged power by size. Humans had learned different lessons from their wars on Earth. Sometimes the smaller, faster fighter could beat the big, slow enemy. The 3 human ships reached the edge of the Kepler 442 system and immediately saw what they were facing. Murphy's jaw dropped as the sensors showed him the alien fleet. 47 massive ships hung in space like dark metal mountains. Each one was enormous, with thick armor and huge weapons. They looked like flying fortresses designed to scare. Anyone who saw them in the middle of the alien formation was the biggest ship Murphy had ever seen. It was at least 2 miles long and covered with gun turrets. Warning lights blinked all over its surface, and smaller ships moved around it like insects around a hive. "My God," whispered Lieutenant Garcia. "How are we supposed to fight that?" Murphy studied the display. The 3 human ships looked like tiny dots compared to the alien monsters. Anyone looking at the situation would think it was hopeless. But Murphy had been in the military for 20 years, and he knew that appearances could lie. "Open a channel." To the alien fleet, Murphy ordered. The main screen flickered and showed a huge reptilian face. The creature had yellow eyes, sharp teeth, and scales that looked like armor. This was Admiral Krex, commander of the Vorthan Warfleet. When he saw the 3 small human ships, he started laughing. "What are these tiny toys? Admiral Krex asked his officers. The aliens around him joined in the laughter. Are these insects here to fight us? I could destroy all three with one shot from my smallest gun. Murphy kept his voice calm and professional. This is Captain Jake Murphy of the Earth Fleet. We received the distress call from the Zilani colony. I'm ordering you to leave this system. Immediately, Admiral Krex laughed harder. Earth Fleet. I see three little ships that look like they might break if I breathe on them. Human, take your toys and run away before I accidentally step on you. Behind Admiral Krex, Murphy could see other Vorthan officers pointing at screens and making jokes. One of them, who wore the uniform of a tactical officer, spoke up. Admiral, shall I power up our weapons? I could end this embarrassment quickly. No, Admiral Krex said, still chuckling. Let them watch as we take the planet. Maybe they will. Learn something about real power. The communication ended and Murphy's bridge fell silent. Everyone looked at their captain, waiting to see what he would do. 3 small ships against a fleet of giants. Seemed like suicide. But Murphy smiled. He activated his secure communication system and sent a coded message to both Captain Wong and Captain Ben Torres. The message was simple. Protocol 7 authorized. Let's show them what human ships can really do. On all 3 ships, crews began preparing for something the aliens had never seen before. Admiral Krex walked through the halls of his flagship, the Dominator. The ship was so big that it took him 10 minutes to reach the main command center from his private rooms. Everything about the ship was built to show power. The walls were thick metal covered with weapons displays. Statues of famous Vorthan warriors stood in every corner. The ceiling was high enough to fit 3 human ships stacked on top of each other in the command center. Admiral Krex's officers were already waiting for him. The room was huge, with screens covering every wall. Dozens of Vorthan warriors sat at control stations, monitoring the 47 ships in their fleet. At the center of the room was a massive table that showed a map of the entire star system. Commander Thane, show me everything we know about these human insects, Admiral Krex said as he sat in his command chair. The chair was made from the metal of a conquered enemy ship and was big enough for 3 humans to sit in together. Commander Thane was the fleet's tactical officer. He was younger than most of the other commanders, but he had earned his position by destroying enemy fleets in 12 different battles, activated the main display screen and pointed to the 3 small human ships. Admiral, our sensors have scanned all 3 vessels. They are incredibly small compared to our ships. The largest one is only 300 meters long. Our smallest warship is 3,000 meters long. Thane used a laser pointer to show the size difference on the screen. The other officers in the room started laughing. One of them, a big warrior named Captain Voss, slammed his fist on the table. Those are not warships. They look like cargo boats that humans use to carry food between planets. The energy readings are strange, though, said Dr. Vex, the fleet science officer. She was one of the few females in the Vorthan military and had to work twice as hard to earn respect. The ships show very high energy density for their size. It's almost like they have much bigger power systems than they should. Admiral Krex waved his hand to dismiss her concerns. Dr. Vex, you worry too much. Humans are a primitive species. They probably don't know how to build efficient ships, so they stuff their vessels full of basic equipment. That's why the energy readings are high. Commander Thane nodded in agreement. Yes, Admiral. Humans are known for using brute force instead of smart engineering. They probably have 5 power cores, where we would use 1 advanced system. The Vorthan way of war was simple. Build the biggest ships possible, put the most weapons on them, and scare enemies into giving up without a fight. This strategy had worked against every species they had ever encountered. Smaller civilizations would see the massive Vorthan fleet and immediately surrender. Those who tried to fight were crushed by overwhelming firepower. What about their formation? Asked Captain Voss. They're moving toward the asteroid belt instead of attacking us directly. They're running away, Admiral Krex said with a laugh. The humans came here thinking they could scare us, but now they see our real power. They're moving to the asteroid belt to hide behind rocks like cowards. Meanwhile, on board the USS Denver, Captain Murphy was having a very different kind of meeting. He stood in his small conference room with Captain Lisa Wong and Captain Ben Torres appearing on video screens. The room was tiny compared to the Vorthan command center, but it was filled with the most advanced technology Earth had ever created. "Jake, I just got word from Earth Command," Captain Wong said from her ship. "Admiral Kate Ross has reviewed our situation and given us full authorization for Protocol 7. Captain Torres spoke up from his screen. "It's been 3 years since we've had to use Protocol 7. Are we sure the aliens are worth it?" Murphy looked at both of his fellow captains. They had trained together for 5 years, preparing for exactly this kind of situation. The Zilani are peaceful farmers. They've never hurt anyone. The Vorothons are threatening to kill 20,000 innocent people just to take their planet. Yes, I think they're worth it. Dr. Alex Chen entered the conference room carrying a thick folder of information. "Captain, I've finished my analysis of Vorthon psychology and military tactics. The results are very interesting." "What did you find?" Murphy asked. "The Vorthons have conquered 43 different worlds in the past 50 years. But they've never actually had to fight a real war. Every species they've encountered has surrendered as soon as they saw the Vorthon fleet. Their entire military strategy is based on fear and intimidation." Dr. Chen opened his folder and showed Murphy several pictures of alien ships. "Look at these vessels from species the Vorthuns conquered. They're all built like the Vorthun ships. Big, slow, and heavy. The aliens think that bigger automatically means better. What about their actual fighting ability?" Captain Wong asked from her screen. "That's the interesting part," Dr. Chen continued. "The Vorthons have no experience with an enemy that uses speed and tactics instead of brute force. Their ships are designed to pound enemies into submission, not to fight a mobile opponent." Murphy smiled. Yes. This was exactly what he had hoped to hear. "So they're used to fighting enemies who play by their rules." "Exactly. Their weapons are powerful, but slow. To turn, their ships are heavily armored, but can't move quickly. They expect enemies to sit still and trade shots until the bigger ship wins." Captain Torres grinned on his screen. "They're about to learn that humans don't play by anyone else's rules." Murphy activated his secure communication system and sent a message to Earth Command. "Admiral Ross, this is Captain Murphy. We are implementing Protocol 7 as authorized. The Vorthons have no idea what they're facing. Its estimated time to engagement: 2 hours." Back on the Vorthon flagship, Admiral Krex was becoming impatient. "Go, Commander Thane. Why are the humans still here? I thought they would run away by now." "They're hiding in the asteroid belt, Admiral. Perhaps they think the rocks will protect them from our weapons." "Fine. Begin moving the fleet toward the planet. If the humans want to watch us take what belongs to the Vorthon Empire, let them. After we finish with the colony, we can destroy their little toys for target practice." The massive Vorthon fleet began to move. 47 enormous ships started heading toward the planet where the Zilani colonists waited in terror. The ships moved slowly and in perfect formation, like a parade designed to show off their power. Admiral Krex stood at the front of his command center, watching the planet grow larger on his screens. He had no idea that the 3 small ships hiding in the asteroid belt were about to change everything he thought he knew about warfare. Captain Murphy stood on the bridge of the USS Denver and looked at his crew. Every person at their station was ready for what was about to happen. They had trained for this moment for years, but it still felt strange to finally use their ships. "Real purpose? All stations, prepare for Protocol 7 activation," Murphy said into his communication system. On the other 2 ships, Captain Wong and Captain Torres were giving the same order to their crews. Lieutenant Commander Amy Foster sat at the tactical station. She had been waiting 3 years for this moment. Her fingers moved across the control panel as she began the transformation sequence. "Captain, all weapon systems are ready for activation. Stealth mode is prepared for disengagement." "Do it," Murphy said simply. The USS Denver began to change. Panels that had looked like normal hull sections slid open with quiet mechanical sounds. Hidden compartments revealed rows of missile launchers that had been completely invisible just moments before. The gun turrets rose from what had appeared to be sensor arrays. The ship's smooth, peaceful appearance was replaced by the deadly look of a warship designed for one purpose: destroying enemies. At the same time, the ship's energy signature exploded. The power readings that the Vorthons had dismissed as primitive engineering were actually fusion reactors that had been running at only 5% capacity. Now, they surged to full combat power, sending energy through weapon systems that could level entire cities. The same transformation was happening on all three human ships. The USS Phoenix revealed a massive particle beam cannon that ran along its entire length. The USS Atlanta opened launch bays that contained enough missiles to destroy a small fleet. What had looked like three harmless exploration vessels were now clearly the most advanced warships anyone in this part of space had ever seen. "Athena, come online," Lieutenant Commander Foster said to her tactical computer. A calm female voice filled the bridge. "Athena tactical system, fully operational. I am detecting 47 enemy vessels. Beginning threat assessment and target analysis. Estimated time for complete battle plan, 90 seconds. The Athena system was one of Earth's most secret weapons. It was an artificial intelligence designed specifically for space combat. It could process information and make tactical decisions faster than any human brain. More importantly, it could control all the weapons on all three ships at the same time, coordinating attacks that would be impossible for human crews alone. On the Vorthan flagship, Dr. Vex was staring at her sensor displays in shock. "Admiral Krex, the energy readings from the human ships have increased by 2,000%. These readings don't match anything in our database." Admiral Krex was getting annoyed with his science officer. Dr. Vex, "Stop worrying about three tiny ships. Their power systems probably broke down from being overloaded. Focus on the invasion of the planet." But Dr. Vex continued to study her instruments. What she was seeing didn't make sense. The three small ships were now putting out more energy than some of the Vorthan fleet's medium-sized warships. Either the humans had technology far beyond what anyone knew about, or something was very wrong with her sensors. "Admiral, I really think we should," Dr. Vex began to say. "Enough," Admiral Krex shouted. "I don't want to hear any more about the humans. Commander Thane, send one of our patrol ships to move those insects away from our operation." "Commander." Thane selected one of their smaller warships, the Destroyer, and sent it toward the asteroid belt. The Destroyer was still 3 times larger than the biggest human ship, and its captain was confident this would be an easy job. Captain Murphy watched the Vorthan ship approaching on his main screen. "Athena, analysis of incoming vessel. Vorthon, Destroyer-class vessel. Length, 900 meters. Primary weapons, plasma cannons, and missile systems. Estimated time to weapons range, 4 minutes. Threat level, minimal." Murphy almost smiled. At that last part, a ship 3 times bigger than his own was rated as minimal threat by their computer. But Athena was right. The Vorthan ship was big and powerful, but it was also slow and predictable. "Captain Murphy, this is Captain Chen of the Vorthan Vessel Destroyer," came a voice over the communication system. "You are ordered to leave this system immediately or face destruction." Murphy activated his communication system. "Captain Chen, this is your last warning. Turn your ship around and leave the Zalani colony alone." Vorthan captain laughed. "Human, you are in a tiny ship, giving orders to the mighty Vorthan Empire. Prepare to be destroyed." The destroyer began charging its weapons. Energy built up in its forward plasma cannons, creating a bright glow that could be seen even from a distance. To the Vorthans, this was how space battles were supposed to work. 2 ships faced each other, charged their biggest weapons, and fired, until the smaller or weaker ship was destroyed. "Captain, the Vorthan ship is preparing to fire," Lieutenant Commander Foster reported. "Athena, prepare 1 plasma torpedo. Minimum power setting," Murphy ordered. "Plasma torpedo ready, Captain." Warning: minimum power setting may not be sufficient to completely destroy target vessel. Murphy considered this for a moment. He wanted to send a message to the Vorthan fleet, but he didn't necessarily want to kill anyone if he could avoid it. "Fire the torpedo, Athena." Single bright point of light shot out from the USS Denver. The plasma torpedo was smaller than a car, but it moved faster than anything the Vorthans had ever seen. Their sensors barely had time to detect it before it hit their ship. The destroyer simply vanished. One moment it was there, a 900-meter warship with a crew of 300 Vorthan warriors. The next moment, there was nothing but an expanding cloud of glowing gas and metal fragments. On the Vorthan flagship, every alarm in the ship began sounding at once. Officers ran to their stations, trying to understand what had just happened. Dr. Vex stared at her sensors in complete shock. "Idmir," she said in a quiet voice. "The destroyer is gone, completely destroyed. I'm reading no survivors, no debris. Large enough to identify? It's like the ship never existed." Admiral Krex stood frozen in his command chair. In 50 years of conquest, the Vorthan Empire had never lost a ship to enemy fire. Their vessels were too big, too heavily armored, too powerful. It was impossible for one small torpedo to destroy a destroyer-class warship. "How?" Admiral Krex whispered. Captain Murphy's voice came over the communication system, addressing the entire Vorthan fleet. "Admiral Krex, that was a warning shot. Using minimal power, you have 30 seconds to begin withdrawing from this system, or we will demonstrate what our weapons can do at full power." For the first time in his military career, Admiral Krex felt something he had never experienced before: fear. Admiral Krex stared at the empty space where the destroyer had been just moments before. His hands shook as he gripped the arms of his command chair. In 50 years of military service, he had never seen anything like what just happened. A single shot from a tiny human ship had completely destroyed one of his warships. "Admiral, what are your orders?" Commander Thane asked. His voice was quiet, uncertain. The confident warrior who had laughed at the human ships was gone, replaced by someone who suddenly understood they might be in real danger. Admiral Krex's fear quickly turned to rage. No one had ever challenged the Vorthan Empire like this. No one had ever destroyed his ships. The humans had embarrassed him in front of his entire fleet, and that was something he could never forgive. "All ships, attack formation," Admiral Krex roared. "I want those 3 human ships turned into space dust. Every gun, every missile, everything we have. Destroy them." 46 massive Vorthon warships began moving toward the 3 small human vessels. It was the largest battle fleet the Vorthan Empire had ever assembled, enough firepower to destroy entire planets. The ships moved in the traditional Vorthan formation, solid wall of metal and weapons designed to overwhelm any enemy through pure force. Captain Murphy watched the approaching fleet on his main screen. Athena. Tactical analysis of enemy formation. Enemy ships are moving in standard intimidation formation, the artificial intelligence reported. This formation maximizes visual impact, but creates significant tactical weaknesses. Recommended. Strategy. Exploit mobility advantage and target command structure. All ships implement Battle Plan Alpha, Murphy said into his communication system. Remember, we're not just fighting for ourselves. 20,000 Zalani colonists are counting on us. The 3 human ships moved apart and began accelerating. Where the Vorthan fleet moved like a slow giant hammer, the human ships moved like dancers, twisted and turned through space with impossible grace, their advanced engines allowing them to change direction in ways that defied what the Vorthans thought was possible. The USS Phoenix, under Captain Wong's command, moved to the left flank of the Vorthan formation. The USS Atlanta, with Captain Torres in control, swept around. To the right, the USS Denver stayed in the center, drawing the main attention of the enemy fleet. The Vorthons opened fire first. Hundreds of plasma cannons and missile launchers sent a wave of destruction toward the human ships. The amount of firepower was enormous, enough to destroy a small moon. But the weapons were designed to fight enemies who stayed still and traded shots. They were not built to hit small, fast targets that moved like birds through space. The human ships danced between the incoming fire, their point defense systems activated, filling space with streams of tungsten bullets that moved at incredible speed. Every missile the Vorthans fired was intercepted and destroyed before it could reach its target. Plasma bolts that should have melted human ships passed harmlessly through empty space as the vessels moved away at the last second. Impossible, Commander Thane shouted as he watched his fleet's massive barrage completely miss its targets. How can they move like that? Ships that size shouldn't be able to turn so quickly. Dr. Vex was studying her instruments with growing horror. Commander, their thrust-to-weight ratio is beyond anything we've ever seen. Their engines are producing more power per kilogram than our largest reactors. Meanwhile, the human ships began their counterattack. Captain Torres aboard the USS Atlanta fired the first shot. A stream of kinetic penetrators shot out from his ship. Tungsten rods accelerated to nearly the speed of light by magnetic rails. The projectiles hit 3 Vorthon ships at the same time, punching through their thick armor like it was paper. Vorthon ships didn't explode like the destroyer had. Instead, they simply stopped working. Their engines went dark, their weapons powered down, and their communication systems failed. The kinetic rounds had been precisely aimed at critical systems, disabling the ships without killing their crews. Captain Wong's USS Phoenix demonstrated a different kind of human technology. Electronic warfare systems that the Vorthons didn't, even though existed, began hacking into their communication networks. False orders spread through the alien fleet, telling ships to change course or hold fire at critical moments. Ship 7, why did you stop firing? Admiral Krex demanded over his communication system. Sir, we received orders from your flagship to cease fire and move to defensive positions, came the confused reply. I gave no such orders, Admiral Krex screamed, but it was too late. Half his fleet was receiving false commands that seemed to come from his own ship. The USS Denver, Murphy's flagship, showed what human weapons could do when they weren't holding back. A particle beam lanced out from the ship's main gun, cutting through space in a line of pure energy. It struck the Vorthon heavy cruiser, Conqueror, and sliced it in half like a knife through butter. But even as his ships were being destroyed around him, Admiral Krex refused to give up. In his rage and desperation, he made a decision that would haunt him forever. All ships, new target. Forget the human vessels. Fire on the planet. If we can't have it, no one can. 20 Vorthon ships that were still able to fight turned their weapons toward the Zalani colony world. Massive guns that could crack continents began charging for a bombardment that would kill every living thing on the planet's surface. Captain Murphy saw what the Vorthons were doing and felt ice in his veins. The aliens were going to murder 20,000 innocent people just because they were losing the battle. All ships, emergency protocol, to protect the colony at all costs. The 3 human ships moved faster than they had ever moved before. Captain Wong's Phoenix reached the planet first, positioning itself between the Vorthon guns and the world below. But one ship couldn't block the fire from 20 enemy vessels. Athena, override all safety protocols, Murphy ordered. Full power to all weapons. I don't care if we burn out every system on the ship. Warning, Captain. Operating at maximum power will cause permanent damage to ship systems and may result in reactor overload. Do it anyway. The USS Denver's weapons blazed with power that exceeded their design limits. Antimatter torpedoes launched from every tube, each one capable of destroying a city. Particle beams fired continuously, their focusing crystals beginning to crack from the heat. The ship's fusion reactor pushed beyond safe operating levels, feeding energy to weapons that were never meant to fire at full power for more than a few seconds, in the space of 30 seconds. Murphy's ship destroyed 8 Vorthon vessels and disabled 6 more. Captain Torres and Captain Wong matched his fury. Their ships unleashing everything they had to save the innocent colonists below. The Vorthon fleet's attack on the planet was stopped, but at a cost. Warning lights flashed on. Every human ship as critical systems began failing from the overload. The USS Denver's main reactor was approaching dangerous temperature levels. Several weapon systems had burned out completely. Admiral Krex watched in horror as his mighty fleet was torn apart by 3 small ships. More than half his vessels were destroyed or disabled. The rest were scattered and demoralized. The greatest military force in Vorthon history had been defeated by an enemy a fraction of their size. Admiral Dr. Vex said quietly, receiving surrender requests from 12 of our ships. They're asking permission to give up. Admiral Krex looked around his command center. Many of his officers were staring at him, waiting for orders. But for the first time in his military career, he didn't know what to say. The space around Kepler 442 was filled with the wreckage of what had once been the mighty Vorthon war fleet. Broken pieces of metal drifted slowly through the darkness, glowing softly from the heat of destroyed engines and weapons. Emergency lights blinked on the ships that were still intact, signaling their surrender to the 3 small human vessels that had defeated them. Captain Murphy stood on the bridge of the USS Denver, looking at the damage reports scrolling across his screens. The ship had pushed its systems far beyond safe limits during the battle. The main reactor was running hot, several weapon systems were completely burned out, and the hull had stress fractures in 12 different places. But they were alive, and more importantly, the Zilani colony was safe. Captain, we're receiving surrender signals from 14 Vorthan ships. Lieutenant Commander Amy Foster reported from her tactical station. The rest of their fleet is either destroyed or too damaged to communicate. Murphy nodded. Athena, what's the status of Admiral Krex's flagship? The artificial intelligence answered immediately. The Dominator is heavily damaged, but still functional. Main weapons are offline. Engines are operating at 20% capacity. The ship poses no threat, but could support life for several more days. Open a communication channel to their flagship, Murphy ordered. The main screen flickered and showed Admiral Krex's command center. The once-proud Vorthan admiral looked like a broken man. His uniform was torn, and there was a cut on his forehead from when an explosion had thrown him across the room. Around him, his officers sat quietly at their stations, no longer the confident warriors they had been just hours before. Admiral Krex Murphy said in a calm voice, I'm prepared to accept your surrender. Order your remaining ships to power down all weapons and prepare to be boarded. Admiral Krex stared at the human captain. For a long moment, how? He finally asked. How did 3 tiny ships destroy the greatest fleet in Vorthon history? We had 47 warships, yet 3 vessels that looked like cargo haulers. Murphy considered his answer carefully. Admiral, you made the same mistake that many species make. You thought that bigger always means better? You built your more ships to intimidate and overwhelm. We built ours to fight and win. Dr. Vex, the Vorthan science officer, spoke up from her station. Captain Murphy, our analysis of your technology shows power systems and weapons that are decades ahead of anything we've seen. How long has Earth been building ships like these? Long enough, Murphy replied simply. Dr. Vex, you're welcome. To examine our technology more closely. But first, we need to discuss the future of your empire and these colonists. On the planet below, the Zilani colonists were emerging from their underground shelters. Elder Zeth, the leader of their community, stood in the main settlement square and looked up at the sky. His people gathered around him, all of them amazed that they were still alive. They had been certain that this day would be their last. Dr. Alex Chen from the USS Denver was already on the planet's surface, having taken a shuttle down as soon as the battle ended. He approached Elder Zeth with a warm smile and a translation device that would let them speak clearly. Elder Zeth, I'm Dr. Chen from the human fleet. Are your people safe? Do you need medical assistance or supplies? The elderly Zilani looked at the human with wonder in his large, gentle eyes. Dr. Chen, we thought we were going to die today. The Vorthan fleet was so large, so powerful. How did your 3 ships defeat them? Dr. Chen sat down on a nearby rock so he would be at eye level with the shorter alien. Elder Zeth, humans learned a long time ago that the size of the weapon isn't as important as the skill of the warrior who uses it. But I want you to understand something important. We didn't come here to conquer or to take anything from your people. We came because you asked for help. Back in space, Murphy was making arrangements for the Vorthon prisoners. Admiral Krexu and your officers have a choice to make. You can face trial for attempted genocide against an innocent species, or you can help us prevent this kind of tragedy from happening again. Admiral Krex looked confused. What do you mean? The galaxy is full of species like the Zilani. Peaceful people who just want to live their lives and raise their families. But it's also full of aggressive empires like yours that think might makes right. We need people who understand both sides to help prevent future wars. Commander Thane, the Vorthan tactical officer, leaned forward. You want us to work with you? After we tried to destroy you? Captain Wong's voice came over the communication system from the USS Phoenix. Commander Thane, we've studied your military records. They're all skilled officers who are following orders from your government. Real enemy isn't soldiers doing their jobs. It's the idea that strong species have the right to destroy weak ones. Dr. Vex spoke up again. Captain Murphy, if we agreed to work with Earth, what would that mean exactly? Murphy thought for a moment. It would mean helping us establish better communication between species. It would mean warning us when aggressive empires are planning attacks on peaceful worlds. Most importantly, it would mean spreading the word that Earth will not tolerate genocide in this part of space. Admiral Kreck slowly stood up from his command chair. Captain Murphy, I have spent my entire life believing that power comes from the size of your fleet and the fear you can create in your enemies. Today you showed me that real power comes from the willingness to protect those who cannot protect themselves. The Vorthan Admiral walked closer to his communication screen. I formally surrender the remaining ships of my fleet to your authority. But I want to make you an offer. Let me return to the Vorthan homeworlds. Let me tell my government and my people what I learned here today. Let me help prevent other admirals from making the same mistake I made. Murphy smiled. Admiral, I think that's an excellent idea. 3 days later, the human fleet prepared to leave the Kepler 442 system. Zilani colonists had insisted on holding a celebration to thank their rescuers. The entire colony gathered in the main square to watch the shuttles carry the human crews back to their ships. Elder Zeth gave a speech that was broadcast to all 3 human vessels. People of Earth, you came to us when we had no hope. You fought for us when we could not fight for ourselves. The Zilani people will never forget what you did here. If you ever need our help, you have only to ask. Murphy stood on his bridge and watched the planet grow smaller on his main screen. In a few minutes, they would jump to faster than light speed and continue their mission. But everything had changed now. The secret of human military capability was out, and word would spread quickly through this part of the galaxy. Lieutenant Garcia turned from his communication station. Captain, we're receiving a message from Earth Command. Admiral Ross wants to speak with you. The screen showed Admiral Kate Ross sitting in her office on Luna Station. Looked pleased but also concerned. Captain Murphy, congratulations on a successful mission. But I hope you understand what this means. Yes, Admiral. The age of hiding our capabilities is over. Raw. Admiral Ross nodded. The galaxy now knows that Earth has ships that can defeat entire fleets. Some species will want to be our friends.
Us.
Others will see us as a threat that needs to be eliminated. Are you and your crews ready for what comes next? Murphy looked around his bridge at the faces of his crew. They had proven themselves in the ultimate test, protecting innocent lives against impossible odds. Admiral Protocol 8 ships will be needed sooner than we thought. They're already being built, Captain. 36 of them, each one more advanced than your current vessels. The galaxy wanted to know what happens when you threaten peaceful people under Earth's protection. Now they know. The 3 human ships engaged their faster-than-light drives and disappeared into the darkness, between stars, leaving behind a galaxy that would never underestimate the tiny ships of the Terran fleet again.